Middle Car. You know what, John? You know, it just hit me as we started the show.
Bowel movement?
Nope. Got that taken care of.
What's that?
You and me, Mark Davis, Raiders, September 26th, hosting the Miami Dolphins. Bruce Buffer, you use him for the opener. It's time. Game 2, we should be there. Doing, we get on the mic. It's like, now, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the honorary game introducers, Haber Middlekov. And it's like, Middlekov! And it's like reverberating through Allegiant Stadium. It's like, heavy Haves! And the crowd, some people are cheering, some people are booing, but it's just noisy. It's like, now, your Las Vegas Raiders starters. People are like, this Middlekov guy, maybe he's not so bad. Like, starting at center, number 68. At quarterback, number 4 from the world famous Fresno State, Derek. Cool. Steve Aoki's like, zoop, 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 zoop.
Would you, if he asked, would you do that for free, or would you give him a rate?
If Mark Davis asked?
Yeah.
Free.
I would too.
I'd even pay for my flight and hotel.
I would too. Do you think if he looked over without knowing, because I would doubt, I'm sure he's privy to who's going to be involved, like he knew Aoki and the Buffer's cousin or whatever, and you just live in Las Vegas long enough. I'm sure those guys are just around.
Yeah.
Do you think he would spit out his peanuts and popcorn if he saw us on the mic over there by the fucking, the fake flame screaming with Aoki?
What if we get on the mic and we're like, before we say anything else, we got to give Mark Davis his flowers. You got it done, Mark. You built the stadium. That shit was sick on Monday Night Football. We're in.
Do you think Bedane got a game ball after last night, or no dice on that one?
No, I don't think that's going to be in the mail. I don't know. I don't know if that one's in the mail.
It was, we'll get in the game a little later, but that was a big night for Mark. Charles is there, just drinking a cocktail.
How about when they show Charles, he does his wine, he toasts his wine, as if to say, look, just FYI.
Was that wine, or was that just straight whiskey?
I got to think it was his own blend, right?
I thought, and then just the way the pour was in a whiskey glass, I just assumed he was drinking.
I thought it was in one of those little mini kind of curved wine.
I didn't look that hard. That could be very much the case. As someone who made a hard pour with my last wine access order,
yeah,
they say it makes sense because I Instagrammed a picture of just basically to the top. And they say those little glasses that are circular like that are actually you're not supposed to have a big pour so you can smell the aromas and stuff. That makes sense. I bet it was 100% in Mark Davis's suite. Charles probably brought a case, right? And everyone was drinking his fucking 24 wine. He does look, still to this day, he looks pretty cool.
Yep.
He can pull off just a t-shirt and a hat and just be like, yeah, he's might be the coolest guy in the stadium of 80,000 people.
He looked cool. A lot of people look cool. The whole thing looked cool.
Aoki is just one. I got 5 text messages immediately right at kickoff. I was like, damn, they got Aoki.
All Vegas guys that asked that question for sure.
But
you freeze Middlekov? I thought we got done. I thought we were done with this. I thought we'd kick this habit. All right. Well, this will be edited out later.
Am I freezing?
I hear you now. I see it now. All right. Look, people, so much to get to. So much to get to tonight. Let's start with this. As we record this on a Tuesday night, hey, go to iTunes, leave us a review for the podcast. In that review, leave us a question. Tell us your favorite bar. Mailbag will be back. That's how you get in the mailbag. If you're watching this YouTube, our podcast is down in the description below, as is our Facebook page. If you're listening to this podcast, there is the description in the podcast show notes with the YouTube link. So you can go check out the YouTube, go check out the podcast, do both.
Very, very easy. Like I said, leave a review, check out the Facebook page, leave a
Another freeze. All right. Did you say everything right there?
I don't know what's going on here. It's got to be me.
How's your speed today?
Let me do a quick Xfinity test.
It's gotta be me. That's a little Brittany right there for everybody. Yeah,
She's going through a lot right now.
She got her.
As I freeze on and off, can you explain to me what a conservativeship is? I keep seeing that word. I don't know what they're talking about.
Like you don't have control of your banking, of your free, like somebody else can, like her dad was in charge of her life, basically.
As an adult, you sign that over to somebody.
Nah, I think a court intercedes when they think you're not fit to handle your own affairs. If I'm going to speak in some legalese.
So when she was going through one of her unstable time, he signed off on it and got control. And now that she's happening again and got her life together, he still has, under the contract, the control of everything. It probably sucks.
It for a long time. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's been like a decade.
It'd be one thing if you were early 20s and really famous and going through some shit. It'd be another thing if you're like 40 years old and you got a lot of cash. It'd be like, it's mine.
Yeah.
I love it when, too, a guy is in that position, or a woman. It happens with moms, too. And they just like, I'm just trying to do the right thing. It's like, well, you're either going to give it up or you're not. Like, do you want to give it up? Because you're like, hey, I'm just trying to do the right thing. It's not a big deal to me. Well, will you take your fucking name off it or no?
I haven't dived into the story, even though the whole world has a take. My only question would be, or my first question would be, is he getting any money for doing this? Like, is he taking a fee?
Of course.
For running the affairs?
Yeah.
So now I think a court was about to say you got to give it up, and he gave it up before anything happened. But I don't know. That was one of those stories that the world seemed to care about. That I'll let somebody else.
I just kept seeing that word, and I was like,
sorry.
I wasn't quite sure what it was, but that makes sense. I mean, I got the gist of it just because of reading tweets. I didn't actually read one story on it, that he just had way too much control in her life.
Hey, keep sending us pictures of you making your Tito's beverages, which in fact is the guy's name. His name is Tito's Beverage or Tito Beverage. And these are Tito's beverages that we are drinking, that you are sending us photos on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook or whatever. Keep sending the DMs. Keep tagging us in your pics. We appreciate it. Sponsored by Tito's Handmade Vodka. That's what we are. You have a bottle right there? Tito's Tuesday.
I do. Tito's Tuesday, then into Tito's Wednesday, into Tito's Thursday, right into the Tito's football weekend, week 2. I mean, this is week 3 of college football. You can combine them and just make it a Tito's week. That's what we always do. It's the number one vodka in America. No big deal. Also sponsor of this podcast, sponsor of our YouTube page, just partners, just hand in hand. We walk everything we do. They're part of us, and we're glad to have them around because it's incredible to make we get more pictures of people buying Tito's, just basically liters of Tito's, handles of Tito's, and just going to have a lot of fun with Tito's. I got a text. I'm on a text thread with a couple guys in a couple different NFL teams. And they were kind of going back and forth, and I was kind of jotting notes. They were breaking down different guys. And then one of them dropped, I got some buddies coming over on Saturday to watch some games. We'll throw down some Tito's. Like, he knows what he was saying, and he knows the drill. This bad boy, it's the best. Tito's.
I do get that a lot from people on a random text about nothing else in particular. They say something about Tito's because I think most people know about Tito's, and people recognize that Tito's is a big deal, and they became a big deal by being first and foremost the best. A high quality product. It's not a lot of fluff. It's not a lot of extra jazz. There's not a lot of flavor. There is Tito's, and it mixes well with everything. Tito's Handmade Vodka, America's original craft vodka. It's the best you can get. Go get it. Since 95, Tito Beverage built the distillery. No one else had done vodka in the state of Texas.
Nope. Whiskey area.
State of Texas. Started doing it free at fundraisers. Charity's a big part of the Tito's ethos too. 6 times distilled in copper pots, not columns. Is it more labor intensive? You damn right.
Yeah.
Is it better though, John?
Of course it is, guy.
Distilled and bottled in Austin, Texas. 40% alcohol by volume, namely 80 proof. Crafted to be savored responsibly.
Do it now, people. Get on it.
Podcast also brought to you by MyBookie. mybookie.ag, promo code HAM and the number 1. mybookie.ag, promo code HAM and the number 1. And right now, you go to mybookie, promo code HAM number 1. They will match that first deposit dollar for dollar up to $1,000. You can also decline the bonus if you choose, because if you accept it, you got to bet the full amount before you can withdraw funds. But either way, HAM won. Let them know that we sent you. And obviously, it's football season. And mybookie.ag, promo code HAM1. So there's so many great options.
Well, we're not that far away from the Major League Baseball playoffs. It'll be very interesting to see what the Giants' old odds are to win the World Series, or at least win the NL, because they clinched a playoff spot yesterday. We got Ryder Cup right around the corner. We got college football this weekend. Obviously, we got NFL. mybookie.ag, promo code HAM1. I just checked our account, guy. We started with 400 going into last week. We got kind of screwed by Jared Goff, the Lions, and George Kittle's face mask. Instead of having, we lost the game fair and square, the under, but we would have had $580. Our 300 would have turned into 280 because it was like minus, whatever, 110, and we put $300 on it, and we would have just been kind of in the driver's seat. We would have had a little money to mess with. We're still just kind of right there on the edge, and with the dud of the week, we haven't discussed this. Do we each want to put some money back in and then rebet? It's only $50 a pop. I'd be interested to do another one. And we got $300 to play with on a lock of the week. Though you mentioned this, I know you looked at the schedule held before me, and then I looked at it. I was like, God, you were right. There's not that many like Tampa playing the Jags,
Texans playing the Jazz. Oh yeah.
I'm just saying, like the Steelers playing the Texans, like what right in our wheelhouse. That doesn't really exist this week.
Yeah. Well, I mean, let's start the discussion. The official picks will come on Thursday, but we can take a look right now, John, at mybookie.ag, promo code HAM and the number 1. Here we go. For those of you on YouTube, you can see this. For those of you listening, we'll talk through it. I mean, lock of the week candidates and dud of the week candidates. That's what we're looking for here. Giants, Washington football team. That could be a dud of the week candidate, right?
It's on Thursday night, though, so we'd have to get that in right now.
Yeah, that's true. +3 is the Giants on that. We don't love on a Thursday. Saints, Panthers.
What's the over-under on Giants, Washington? 40. Jesus.
40.5. Yeah.
That's pretty low.
Yeah. Saints, our bet last week, if you missed it, was the under on Texans, Jags. We both agreed we like the Texans and +3, -3, +3,
+3, yeah,
+3 that was value.
I know.
And we decided to go the under, and that was not good. Texans Browns is a 12.5 point line. Bengals Bears, Bills Dolphins is a 3 point line.
Kind of like the Bengals there.
Bengals +3,
yeah,
on the road.
Oh, it's in
Chicago.
But I mean, if it's like 0-0 in the second quarter, they'll start booing Andy.
Rams, Colts. Yeah, that's true. Broncos Jags is a Broncos -6.
This is not a lock of the week, but it's one game I like as a gambler. Would scroll up a little bit. I saw a little Miami Buffalo. Yeah. Buffalo coming off a pretty rough loss.
Yep.
Miami coming off a big win.
Yep.
-3 in Miami, divisional opponent. I kind of like Buffalo there.
Buffalo -3. Josh Allen didn't play well.
Look at the odds,
Josh Allen was 1 of 8 on passes, 20 yards downfield. But Josh Allen, the Steelers do kind of have his number. But he was not good. I mean, for the Josh Allen's about to regress crowd, I mean, maybe there was something to that game. Rams -4 at the Colts. Niners are 3.5 at Philly. So you don't like Denver Jacksonville as a dud?
Yeah, no, I don't mind that. But
what would you do? Denver -6 at Jacksonville?
Yeah, I mean, we would just short the Jags. You seem to hate the Broncos, which I respect. I mean, they just kicked the crap out of the Giants. They might be decent, but they lost Jerry Jeudy.
So is this a lock of the week or a dud?
No, this would be a dud. I wouldn't watch much of this game at all.
How about well, that's the point. Oh, okay.
Yeah. That's a good. I think by far, unless we're going to go with the Thursday night game, the dud of the week is Broncos Jags, from what I've seen so far. Or Vikings Cardinals. No, because the Cardinals are not a dud. They're a fun watch.
You guys, Patriots Jets 5.5. Could that be a lock?
That's Patriots? To me. I wrote that down as the lock of the week. Patriots minus 5.5, and you just. I heard someone say, or probably not read, maybe saw a tweet that Sam Darnold was 1 of 4. They were 1 of 4 in the red zone. Like they could have scored a lot of points against the Jets, Carolina, but they just were terrible in the red zone. I just do think New England coming off a loss. Their defense is really good. I could see Zach Wilson throwing 3 or 4 picks. I think for me, having looked at the schedule before we hopped on and now looking at it again, I think that New England's the only one I feel comfortable where I go. I feel like 90% confident going into the game.
Yeah, I like that. Let's make that our lock right now, subject to change. Jordan on YouTube says Broncos Jags dud of the week, but Tobin says any game with an over under of 40 has to be the dud, which is Giants football team. It's a good one.
Well, what would you? I mean, would you just take the Giants +3? Is that probably the bet? You know,
I think that would be that bet. Yeah.
So you want to put $100 Giants +3, and we'll just we talked about waiting till Sunday, but let's just say this: if Mac Jones didn't play and Hoyer had to play, I don't know if the line would change that much, but if Zach Wilson, let's say, just test positive and he was to be out, that line could all of a sudden go from 5.5 to like 12, right?
Right.
I'm trying to say, like, do you want me to make the bet right now or to wait?
Right. Yeah, you're asking, is there a safe bet?
I'm saying, is the timing on the bet? Like, are you cool with me doing it now, or should we just wait?
That's where it would help to look at some betting trends.
But I'm just saying, I'm talking more about someone test positive and they're out. Look at it that way.
Yeah. Well, if something
it could change a half point here or there just naturally.
Who's the Giants' backup quarterback? Because they could go from +3 to something even worse, right?
They are playing though in like 48 hours.
That's the thing that makes me not want to pick that game, is that it's on Thursday.
True. Well, I mean, I text you University of Miami, Michigan State. I mean, those two teams just stink.
But even betting on the game, I don't know that I want to watch that game.
But again, we're talking duds. You're not going to watch Denver, Jacksonville.
No, but I was locked in on the dud this Sunday because of it.
How'd you find? Did you have the game on television?
No. I was every time they do an update, I was texting like, "Oh my god, another!" It's the second quarter. We're getting another game, another Chris Hansen on the Jags Texans game. So what are you saying? You'd rather do?
No, I'll do Denver. I'll bet against Urban Meyer every week of the year.
Yeah, they seem like a disaster right now.
Yeah,
right?
I think Denver's kind of feeling themselves. If you're Fangio, you're thinking beating the shit out of these guys, right? Like killing them.
Yeah.
Minus 110. You convinced me to try to make our money back, put 100 each, but we
were going to be more disciplined. All right, so that's where we stand. We'll circle back on Thursday on that for some final decisions, right?
MyBookie.ag, promo code AM1.
All right. Okay, so we got that. Oh, this one you texted me. You're the one that informed me today that Norm Macdonald died. Long battle with cancer.
Did you know he had cancer? Maybe no one did, huh?
No, it seemed like nobody knew. That bummed me out. I have watched. Norm is one of my favorite comedians of all time, and truly not another person that walks the earth, I don't think, that was like Norm Macdonald. I mean, just how uncomfortable everything he did was. Just the way he talked. Like, is he done talking? Is this a joke? What is going on here? Like Conan O'Brien. Like later, he made these people who thrive on being in control in a conversation feel totally out of control of whatever conversation they were having with Norm.
You see the video that went viral about 10 days after Steve Irwin died? He's on with Jon Stewart about the crocodile hunter. And he starts making fun of the crocodile hunter. Like, are we really mourning a guy that chased crocodiles? Like, I mean, these crocodiles have been fucking lining up to kill the crocodile hunter for years. And Jon Stewart can't help but laugh 10 days after he died and making fun of like the crocodiles being so mad that ultimately a fish got him. Like a crocodile didn't even get to take him down. I mean, Jon Stewart's like in tears. Again, guy, 10 days after the fact.
That's where I was watching this thing the other day about, he wasn't really in it. There was this thing on Vice about comedy after 9/11. Just like, yeah, I mean, it was incredible.
Yeah.
No, but the topic is exactly your reaction. Like, it's so uncomfortable. And it just talked about how, like, at first, like, comedy came back, but no one was doing 9, and then you could do some like anti-terrorism jokes, and then you could do like just how people they were just talking to comedians about how they handled it. I haven't watched it yet because I tweeted today like everything Norm did gave me joy, and someone's like, "Have you watched this 9/11 stand up?" And I'm like, "Oh fuck, I haven't." So I gotta get to that. But
yeah, I just think, and comedians have been able to get away with this for a long time, right? They could say things that normal people couldn't say when they're on stage or making jokes, and they should be able to. Like, we deserve to laugh. and watching some of the Norm stuff, sometimes just on just a big picture comedians, it is healthy for you to laugh. Like sometimes I don't watch enough go back. I know some people just watch a lot of funny movies. I go on stretches where I don't watch them for a long time, and it helps you just kind of relax a little bit and just laugh. And it's very healthy to do that. But I think what Norm brought to the table, he was on such a different level than other comedians talking about things that were so uncomfortable. Yeah. But those are things that you talk about with your friends, or we talk about behind the walls of our homes. And one thing I think's happened in society, right, is like outside of the walls of our homes, everything's become this big like theater, and everyone's kind of walking on eggshells of what you can say, what you can't say. And like I think a lot of people feel it's unfair who gets to be the arbitrator of what is allowed to be said. And we go on a long tangent about like where we're headed, or is it just you go through these ebbs and flows of society? It's natural. I don't know. He never gave a fuck about any of that. And it was incredible. I actually think just watching a lot of his stuff today, he really resonated with so many normal people because he just said things that like the thing that really put him on the map back in the day, right, was the OJ stuff after OJ happened. Everyone was talking about OJ like that though, right? In the home of their houses about, and it became a racial thing, but like black people, white people, we're having the same conversation. Like he gutted those two people. Like there's not one person that didn't have a conversation about those Ron Goldman and Nicole getting, just destroyed by OJ right over the fence, right? And he just openly talked about it immediately, unlike anyone, and he wouldn't let it go. And it was just like he would just cross these lines, but they weren't lines because ultimately they're lines publicly, but they are lines that as you and I would have a conversation if we were just sitting at home together or texting together that we just wouldn't necessarily have here. And I mean, most people are like that, right? Like most people have, I always say this about Twitter, my text, in so it's just I already miss them.
Chappelle is a big proponent of like, hey, comedians should be able to go to places that make people really uncomfortable. And I'm a big proponent of Chappelle. I think one of the reasons, it's one of the things that has gotten a lot of people in trouble on Twitter is thinking, well, if a comedian says this, then it's funny. But if you're not a comedian and you say some of the stuff that you're like, oh, if a comedian says this, it'd be hilarious. I'm just tweeting like a comedian would say the same thing, but it doesn't necessarily get consumed in the same way, right? If you're at a comedy show, you hear something really inappropriate, you're like, oh, this is part of you are accepting some of these crazy premises. And I think that's gotten a lot of people in trouble on Twitter, which, I think a lot of stuff on Twitter just gets misinterpreted.
Of course it does, because it's just words, just the written word.
Of course it does. But I think at the heart of it, what do people always say? Like, I'm just trying to be funny. I wasn't trying to offend. I was just trying to be funny. I think a lot of that goes to like, everybody on earth has stuff they're like, oh man, if I was a comedian, this would be a great bit. Anyone that meets a comedian is like, oh man, I got it. You should do a bit about XYZ, lawnmowers. I got some great stuff on lawnmowers. And so you work some of that shit out on Twitter, and it doesn't get taken the same way because you're not at a comedy club.
But yeah, the other thing that noticing in the last couple of years, he would live tweet PGA Tour golf tournaments. Like
I didn't realize that.
just shots, and it just always brought me joy seeing like Norm Macdonald is watching this random PGA Tour event that I'm watching. It's not just majors; like he would just be watching, the Bay Hill, or whatever. He was just at his house, and now maybe it's because he was sick. And he'd been dying for a while, like 9 years of cancer, battling. He's not that old. He's 61. It's not like he's 78, right?
He did a great. I remember it's hard to even do his bits, but the one that I went back and watched today is like, he cried on his last appearance on Letterman. Letterman was a legend to him. He's rightly believed Letterman's the greatest host of all time, which I agree with. But late night, and but one of his bits was like, about how he's like, he doesn't trust Germany. He's like, because Germany decided to start a war and they decided as their opponent to take on the entire world. He's like, now you would have thought that thing would be over in 5 seconds, but no, it was kind of close. He's like, and then they did it again. They took on the whole world. Anyway, See, you can't. It's hard to replicate Norm
Yeah.
bits, but it's just. And Norm, the other Norm, not underrated, but Norm in all of the Sandler movies. Norm in any movie, really. Norm had a talk show on, I think it's on Netflix, called Norm Has a Show, which I watched at the beginning of the pandemic. His co-host is the guy that runs. I didn't realize who he was until I watched the documentary on the Comedy Store in LA. It's the guy that runs the Comedy Store. It was like his sidekick on this show. And it's just Norm interviewing people. It's just weird, but it's good. Anyway.
It's just bizarre. He was a bizarre guy, but hilarious.
The moth joke. You sent me that.
I feel like we just don't have. Do you know what he was? And this is what I was thinking. I've been thinking about him all day. A lot of people just try to copy people, and it's human nature. And I'm sure Norm deep down stole some stuff from other people. He just felt very, very unique.
He was
very, very rare.
Yeah.
And a lot of people now feel like regurgitated, or they're just faking it. Not even faking it. I don't even mean it as a bad thing, because you aspire to be like someone. You try to, like Patrick Mahomes is playing like, or Derek playing like Brett Favre. Like, I get it. I'm not, but it just feels like very fresh. Like, I just don't see this wherever.
He seemed to be really comfortable even bombing.
Yeah, that's 100%. That's a great point. Like, he was unafraid to fail, because it felt like every joke he was going into might be the biggest disaster that's ever come out of someone's mouth. Not even a joke, but like a story, like whatever he was, about to, whatever subject he was going to.
Yeah, you know what it was? Everyone else is going for laughs, and Norm is going for silence. Like, Norm wants it to be so awkward in there that people are like, what is going on? Like, Norm almost liked the silence, it felt like, or the awkward, like, more than the laughs. I don't know. That's how it felt. Like, he enjoyed discomfort more than laughs, which everyone wants laughs, not discomfort. All right, should we dive into sports?
Yeah.
All right. You and I have both watched the Eagles. This is the Middlecoff revenge game. Niners-Eagles this week, week 2. This game is in Philadelphia. The Eagles are coming off a blowout win over the Atlanta Falcons. I'm sure we'll get to more of this game as the week goes along, but what do we think of this matchup right now? That's the first way to approach this.
You think Jeffrey Lurie thinks a lot about that $105,000 he paid Middlecoff over a 3-year span, and everything, all of my blood, sweat, and tears and equity that I gave to that franchise? I don't know that he does. I don't think he does either, because I wouldn't. It's crazy, but I still follow this team pretty closely. I mean, know several people there. I would imagine that early in the offseason, I probably talked like most people, thinking, this roster is not going to be that great. I didn't love Jalen Hurts as a player coming out. I thought he was a running back. I mean, I truly did. I thought he was a running back coming out of Oklahoma. I was wrong. He's actually pretty good. Now, I don't know how good he'll become, but like the guy we just saw play the Falcons, and I know the guys with Philly that have just been around him now this training camp, like, they're impressed. Like, they think he's pretty good. Like, they think he's better right now than not even close to like what they've had with Carson the last couple of years. You could argue, I know you watched the Colts game too, like, what player was, if you just, Haberman, you didn't know either player, you're just like, these are two quarterbacks, you'd probably say the Eagles guy's a better player than the guy in the blue.
Jalen Hurts looked better than Carson Wentz last week, yes.
Yeah.
And watched both games.
He's Lamar gets herky-jerky when he runs. Now, he's way faster than Jalen, but he's like a runner who passes. Jalen has kind of become a passer who can run, right? Like, he does the Deshaun Watson where he scrambles the left or right to keep it alive, but throws.
Well, his thing, when you watch him, you're not watching Lamar Jackson as a runner, right? He's closer to like
younger Russell Wilson. Yeah.
Yeah. He's not going to break off. I mean, it's just, even he's physically, he's solid. He's really comfortable. One of the things I thought watching Hurts was this guy did play at Alabama and Oklahoma in some massive games. And I think here he is in a new environment now, right? Year 2, new coach. He just looks up to speed. He looks comfortable, spread the ball around. They look good. Now, Atlanta, as we've talked about this, Atlanta probably stinks.
Yeah.
But, I think Hurts looks better than Wentz. I think Devontae Smith looked better than Kyle Pitts in that game.
Oh, yeah.
Now, Jalen Hurts had a lot of time to throw. Like, they protected, or Atlanta can't.
Guy, that's part of the deal. I mean, their offensive line is potentially the best offensive line in the league.
But do you agree, like, Atlanta has 0 playmakers on defense just from watching them week 1?
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, their offensive, what I was told during camp, was like, our lines are good. And then you watch them, you go, they got Lane Johnson, who's one of the best right tackles. Brandon Brooks is the best guard. He tore his Achilles last year, but he's back. Kelsey is like a borderline Hall of Famer. The hair guy, the left guard, I don't even know his name, but he just fucking tosses guys. And then they got the Australian guy that Howie just gave $70 million to. Like
Andre Dillard not even in the picture.
No, he's a backup. And then their skill guys, they have several. I mean, Devontae Smith won the Heisman. It was like a legit, top 15 pick. Rager, he's still a work in progress, but he scored a touchdown in that game. He can run.
Doesn't have to be the number one receiver.
No. And then they have Ertz and Goddard, who Goddard, people forget, was a second-round pick. And he's better than Ertz now. And then Ertz is just still a functional player. Miles Sanders, the running back, is the guy that took over for Saquon Barkley at Penn State. He's not like Saquon Barkley, like it's a different style, but he's a speed, fast back. He's just good. Like their skill guys around Jalen are kind of like what Jalen's used to, right? He just has a lot of talent around him. And then his offensive line, like to me, I'm watching their offense. I go, this thing's going to give this is a pretty good offense if the quarterback's playing.
They also got the ball a few times to, is he 15 or 16, Quez Watkins, who's like a 6th rounder out of
4-2 guy.
He looks like Devontae Smith. Market inefficiency.
He can fly.
That's what I would do. I get a bunch of guys that look the same. Hard to tell who's who when you're running around on the field. Like, where's Devontae? I don't know. Now, I looked him up. He's 23 pounds heavier than Devontae Smith, but he's pretty skinny too, and he's fast. He's fast.
Well, you can be 23 pounds heavier than Devontae and still be like 188.
He's 193. 193 is what they listed him at.
Devontae, that touchdown against the Falcons, again, that was a good play call, but you can just tell those guys.
John, he had a drive. He had 4 catches on 1 drive at one point.
He's good.
No, I think he's fantastic. Like he looks kind of reminded me of the way. Remember early on, it was like Amari Cooper. Like this guy knows how to play receiver. That's kind of what I thought watching Devontae. Is this guy is ready to play in the NFL?
I think Devontae is the type player. And we'll talk about Brandon Ayuk probably more in the next podcast once Kyle, I'm sure, is asked about him tomorrow. Is what they want to, Brandon Ayuk to be a pro. The number one thing about Devontae, beside just the talent, was like how serious the motherfucker is. Like he is just like, Amari. We
until the post game celebration. Did you see him dancing shirtless?
Yeah, well, you get to enjoy wins.
Leader, John.
Enjoy wins. But I just think this team that, we looked at the schedule when the schedule first came out, like 2-0. You just watch that team. It's not just going to be an easy win, right? And really, their defensive line is also excellent. So their offense is good. Their D-line's good. The back seven's not very good. But, you got to have to block these guys. Like McGlinchey, we talked a lot with Joe Staley last week about McGlinchey. Like, this is a McGlinchey game. Like, you're going to have Brandon Graham and some good players over you in passing situations, right?
Yeah. Brandon Graham made a play that he would have been ejected in college, and it wasn't even it was a running play up the middle, and
he would have been ejected for that in college.
Oh, I don't know. I'm just saying he just fucking. It was like when you watch those old NFL films,
it was clowny like.
It's like the NFL, boom, 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 a car crash every 8 seconds, boom, 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 boom. Like that's what it was.
I actually think it's good for Kyle because you can just throw on the film and be like, these guys are good. It's not like, they weren't supposed to be that good or they're going to be the last place team in the division. I think when the dust settles, they're clearly not could they win the division? I mean,
yeah. Is there a great defense in that division?
No.
I mean, Washington could solid on defense. Right?
Yeah, Washington's good on defense.
Brian on YouTube says, will the Eagles be able to stop the Niners? I don't see that. Nate says Kittle should have a big game. I do think they'll be able to run the ball. The Niners should be able to run the ball.
Well, their linebackers suck, and their DBs are not great. So I'm not trying. I think we're just kind of laying it out.
Appropriate fear. Like they are better than the way we talked about them 2 months ago, and you've been saying it. You've been hearing it, and then I watched them, and I agree with you.
Yeah,
they Sirianni might know how to call offense. He might. Now again, it's Atlanta. It's 1 week of the NFL season. The biggest part to me is Hurts is with you. Hurts is better. Hurts is really solid. Like he might be good. At minimum, he looks really solid.
Well, sometimes like with Lamar on Monday night, and it's natural with running quarterbacks who really might take off. Michael Vick used to do this too. They're not like scared frenetic, right? Pocket quarterback guys like, God, is he kind of freaking? They just kind of get like, should I get my feet ready? Should I rev the engine so I take off? Like Lamar turns into that. Jalen is not for a running quarterback. I think he had 65 yards in that game. He kind of just floats around and then he'll take off. But he's not, scramble backwards, but he's not, I don't feel he's frenetic in the pocket. I feel he plays calm.
And they'll do some zone read stuff, right? They do create for him too.
Now,
so
again,
he just stress. Yeah, he stresses the defense a little, but
Matt Ryan might be Matt Schaub, Oakland Raider version right now. Kyle Pitts, I had the thought, like, is it not even going to be his fault? But people are going to be like, oh, this is the most hype player ever when he has 38 catches all season.
Yeah, I think it might not be his fault. No, they got Ridley, but I just, how are they going to stop people?
Well, they scored 6 points.
The first drive looked really, the first drive, the curse of the first drive, but first drive kicked a field goal.
You got to score touchdowns. But part of this, the Niners, I've been to a lot of games, obviously, at this stadium. This stadium can turn on the home team when they're not good. But when you give them hope or there's hype coming in, like the place, opening weekend, they won their first game. They're playing a highly touted, hyped team, Kyle, just the Niner brand. Like, it's just that place is going to be a challenging environment. One key, probably dive into the game more Thursday, but like, I think starting fast. You don't want to get to a position where you're down 10-0 and that place is going ape shit. I think scoring early, like that first drive, you get down there, it can't be a Robbie Gould field goal. Like, you got to get 7 on the board.
Yeah, it's I think that's going to be a theme for the Niners all year long, given their run game and their secondary. I think it's going to be hard to play from behind. Garoppolo.
But depending on who you're playing, not everyone can just, keep scoring on you. That's part of it, right? Like Seattle, if you got down like 10-0 in Seattle, it happened to a couple times with Harbaugh. You're like, oh my God. And then all of a sudden you look up, it's like 38-7. It could snowball to you certain places when your DBs can't cover those wide receivers. I don't know if Philly's quite that explosive. I'm just saying, like, if it got out of hand early, like, I do think you would be able to kind of make some shit happen. But I do think it's really important against these guys. You don't want to give like an underdog. And ultimately, I think it's been easy for Sirianni. Like, no one fucking thinks we're going to be any good, and we're good. Like, all you guys, we got good players. We got a lot of highly touted guys. We got a lot of first-round picks. We got a lot of guys making a lot of money here. You start giving them life. That's where, to me, you just got to – the Niners did a good job with the Lions, right? They just hit them right in the mouth, and they just kept hitting them.
They did, but the problem in that game ends up being you're playing from ahead. Detroit just doesn't quit. You're running a ton of plays. Do you know the 49ers ran 55 plays in that game? You know how many plays the Lions ran? 84.
Jesus, I didn't know that.
So if you just and then the 9 players are getting hurt, so guys can't come out of the game. It's just you'd like to be able to run I'd hate for 2 weeks of the season to go by. They played 2 road games, guys are hurt, and your defense is already a little bit gassed early in the year.
I agree. You just got to find a way.
And now you're chasing Jalen Hurts around.
You get out of this 2-0 though, you're in pretty good shape, right?
Yeah.
Depending on the injuries.
Let's plan on natural grass.
I just scrolled through Roto World. I had this thought last night when the cart came out. It looked like the Raiders upgraded their cart. They got a normal cart, even though I think one of the Ravens sat in the front seat of the one, but that was by choice.
He's the guy that sits in the front of the Uber just because.
Did you feel this way? I felt like I saw the cart come out in a lot of games. I saw a lot of players get carted off week 1, guy. All around the league. It felt like 20 plus players got carted off.
Yeah. Well, the Raiders lost several players, like you said.
The Ravens lost one. I saw the cart 3 guys last night.
The cart didn't come out, but Frank Clark and Honey Badger weren't even playing for the Chiefs the other day. Like, there are a lot of guys. And the other thing you're getting a ton of cramping.
Yeah.
I think guys are not in as good a game ready shape.
Well, you can't tell me that in 1998 the cart came out week 1 25 times, whatever it did. Like, they were just more equipped to start the season than they are in 2021. Yeah. I will not.
I think somebody said a while ago there's a study that shows like guys get hurt less.
Yeah, ACLs and Achilles. Like, you can't convince me that those are popping because these guys go from like 70% to 100 instead of being at like, in the 90s to 100, right? That's why I think one theory I have on Kyler, obviously Jalen, I think it's harder for these running quarterbacks even if you're an average defense or a good defense, you're just not. You're like, what the fuck is this? Like we haven't been doing this, and then all of a sudden, it's like my ACL pops as I'm chasing the guy. Listen, I know the league's just made $110 billion or whatever the deal was, but it's just the injuries. I feel like it's not only not going away. I think it's only going to get worse and worse as the years go on.
It feels that way, and with the artificial surface, feels like it's a part of it,
which is scary.
Yeah. What do we got? Should we jump to a topic? We plan to do an ad here. Does this feel like a good time to do it? Why not?
Let's just go one more topic.
Go one more. All right. Let's make the adjustment. So I'll tell you one thing I'm watching early in this season with the Cardinals, with the Seahawks, with the Rams, with the 49ers. And that's what is the hierarchy in the NFC West. We talked about this on Sunday. The NFC West went 4-0. And the NFC West looked really good at 4-0. Like the teams that won, the other three teams, Arizona looked fantastic. Seattle looked fantastic. The Rams looked fantastic. After watching Seattle again, I feel that way again. So one of my early questions as we watch these first few weeks of the season is, are we sure the Niners are not the fourth place team in the NFC West? I don't think we're sure that they're not the fourth best team in the NFC West yet. They've got some injuries early. I have high expectations for them. I like you do, like a lot of people do. I don't think, matched up, Cliff and Kyle are equals, but the Cardinals have just given the 49ers problems. Kyler's a mother. Obviously Seattle and the Rams are better on offense. So I don't think we're sure yet that the Niners aren't the fourth place team in the NFC West. Are you sure yet that the Niners aren't the fourth place team in the NFC West?
I just do not believe in the Cardinals. I would say like currently right now.
Yeah, just
like
right now.
I mean, the Cardinals could beat anybody. So yeah, are they more dangerous? September 14th, 100%. I'm still betting on them finishing last.
One
takeaway though, watching the other two teams in the division. The Rams have been better, 3 of the 4 years, right? Now the Niners have beat them 4 times in a row, but I think we got to throw that out the window now that they got the other fucking quarterback. And Collinsworth mentioned this when I was the second half. He's like, Al, I don't think we've ever done a Lions game, right? Like, I don't think people quite understand how little you've watched of Matt Stafford. We're not counting. What doesn't get counted is red zone stuff with the Lions, right? When you watch a full game and the primetime games, you've watched, like the average fan who lives in Texas or California or Seattle has watched on average 5, actually when you factor in the playoffs, what do you think? If you're an NFL fan, 7 Brady games a year, 7 Rodgers games a year. Now with Russell, wherever you live, the team that's not in your market, but the top teams, like you watch that quarterback 5 to 7 times once you factor in the playoffs. You get a pretty good feel for him as a fan scout, right? You're like, this guy's good. I think a lot of people have takes on Matt Stafford without really watching him at all. As like someone who you just watch a player play a lot, right?
Yeah. Well, I also think we're always debating if Stafford underachieved or was just a stat patter, or should he get some leniency because he was on the Lions, or should we say, no, why are you giving him a pass? He had Calvin Johnson. We're always trying to figure out here's the bottom line. There's a line and there's really good and not really good. And he's really good. Now, is he a Super Bowl winning quarterback? We'll see. But most guys, good teams or on bad teams, just can't do some of the things Matthew Stafford can do. And now he's paired with Sean McVay.
And he's just a dramatic upgrade.
We know is one of the best coaches in the NFL.
Yeah, they're going to be really good. And I think
you're right. And he's an upgrade. That's a good point.
I think watching Seattle, who has, given the Niners trouble for a decade, they feel better than they've been watching their defense. And when Jamal got paid, I watched his press conference 3 or 4 weeks ago. And he said the difference this year than last year, he's like, I was injured when I got here. I was battling some stuff. I just never felt right. I got here late, right? Remember they made the trade right before the season.
Yeah.
And it was just, I just hit the ground running and then I got injuries. He's like, I know the defense now and I'm 100% healthy. Watching that defense, and part of it's got to really piss Brady off. It feels like they got 4 or 5 guys that switch to single digit numbers in the front 7. It makes them look better. He is flying around, hitting people really hard. I wonder if they justified it by this. They go, this guy's got some flaws. Not a great cover guy, but his violence, his versatility, and everything else is going to be a multiplier on our defense. Because when you're going to watch the film on Monday, like you got to match, he's our best, defender. You got to match his violence and his effort. He flies. How often you just watch 2 series of them on defense? 33 is just fucking everywhere.
You could argue if you're deciding whether or not to sign or draft a defensive player, instead of trying to figure out can he cover, the question is just, does he keep the defensive coordinator up at night the week of the game? And the answer on Jamal is like, yeah.
Yeah, cool. He blitzes. He brushes the passer. And the Niners have guys like that. Warner and Kittle are that. And that's what kind of sets the tone for their team. But they're going to need, one thing's clear with the injuries, and I was arguing with someone on DM. He's like, how could you guys said something, Kinlaw is more important, Jason Verrett? Because I just fundamentally believe that the defensive line is infinitely more important than a corner. Obviously, Jason, I'm not saying that's not a loss. He's their most talented corner, but if I can just get a healthy Kinlaw for the next 16 games, like that's a huge addition. The Seattle, every team in the league would take a first-round level talent for a defensive line over a corner in a heartbeat for a stretch. Now, it's all in theory because I don't know how many games these guys can play. But the Niners, the key to this season, more guys are going to get hurt. Can their premium guys, like their core, Kittle, Warner, Trent, Bosa, right? Debo, Ayuk, whoever, probably, maybe both. If Ayuk,
at this point, they're running like,
yeah, can their high-end, 7-8 guys stay on the field?
Trent, did you say Trent?
Yes, I said Trent. That's what they're going to need.
I call him Trench Williams. But by the way, to your point on the single digits, I was watching the Eagles game today going, God, this corner? Who is this guy? He's sweet. And it's
like an outside linebacker.
It was Steven Nelson. I'm like, who is 3? It's like, oh, the guy who's like, he's been in the league.
Yeah.
I thought it was some new sweet player, but he looks sweet in number 3.
Yeah, the numbers the numbers make it look cooler when they have a big hit. You're like, damn, who got that sweet hit number 6? And then it's like, that's Rodney McLeod. He's been in the league for 12 years. Like, well, it doesn't look the same when you're 38. I do respect, like, Jamal Adams just kept 33. He could have easily just gone to 1 or something, and it'd been like, damn, that's badass. Honey Badger, we'll see. I mean, I hope he just stays with 32. But just some of the, I respect the star secondary guys that just stay true to their brand. Now, part of it wasn't like you had to buy back, if you were a star player, buy back all the jerseys. Like for Steven Nelson, it might not have been fine. It didn't matter. Right. But for Jamal Adams, that could be kind of expensive, right?
If Richard Sherman comes back, what would he wear? 25? Would Elijah Mitchell give him 25?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. 5.
I don't know if Richard Sherman's coming back.
Well, I don't either, but was he 11 in college?
Honestly, I thought he wore a single digit in college, but
he maybe wore 9 in college.
I was gonna say 5, but I'm pretty sure he wore a single.
Pretty sure Evan Moore wore 5 in college, John.
Same class.
Yeah, I don't know the same class, but they both were on that team that beat Stanford.
You could have double numbers though in college, right?
But Richard was a receiver.
But his last 2 years switched.
So maybe he switched to 5 after when he was on defense.
Could be wrong on that one.
And somebody on Nate says Adams wore 33 in college at LSU. So what would you say then? That you are not sure yet that they're not the last place team, but you're also, of course, and I'm with you. I would still bet on Arizona, and I still think you can get 3 teams in the playoffs out of this division. I just know after 1 week, there are things that happen week 1 that don't actually indicate what's going to happen the rest of the year. But after 1 week, everybody looks good, and I do think Kyler being really good is real, but a season is 17 weeks long, and over the course of a long season, your coaching matters, your quarterback health matters, like all that stuff. Attrition plays out.
He was remarkable on Sunday. I mean, I'm not going to try to be a hater on that one. Like,
well, there's nobody else like him in the NFL, because I would say that about Kyler.
Yeah, I would say if like Chandler Jones might have had the best, when you 5 sacks as a pass rusher, but Kyler. Did 5 guys have better games than him just throughout the league, any position? I mean, he threw 4 touchdowns. He was running all over the place. He was making these plays that look like Bryce Young would make at Alabama or something. Now, I get Tennessee's defense was terrible, but if Kyler's going to do that for 17 weeks, yeah, that's a playoff team. But we talked all year long about this division, rightfully so, being really good. Once you see it, you're like, yeah, it's actually really, really good. Right? The Rams are going to be better. Seattle, they've been awesome, but it just feels like this team feels a little more complete than in years past. And then Arizona, it's like, well, remember they lost Chandler Jones second half of the season. So if they get a 15, 20 sack guy and Kyler can just not ebb and flow as much, it's going to be a motherfucker. I mean,
I
those
think
games.
the question, so part of this, like, what are you watching for early? Seattle versus Indy had the potential to be, both teams can be kind of weird. Seattle can be weird. Indy is going to be weird. Carson does not look comfortable watching them. But I think part of the question is, like, is Seattle just going to is Shane Waldron going to just make them really consistent? Are they just going to be the same every week? Are they going to play down to opponents? Or are they just going to be the same every week? Because I do think one thing you would say generally about Kyle McVay offensive guys, and you could shoot a hole in this because you'd be like, well, LaFleur just got his ass kicked. Green Bay LaFleur. They tend to be pretty consistent. Like their teams, if their team ceiling is average, then they just play average a lot. If their team ceiling is really high, then they play really well a lot. So
we got the Rams play the Colts. Obviously, the Niners play the Eagles. Vikings, Cardinals. That's probably the easiest of the bunch. And Seattle,
game's
Tennessee.
in Arizona.
That game's in Arizona. Yeah, I mean, to me, the games that are, watching Tennessee and Indy come off 2 losses. Like, do we get just those are 2 playoff teams last year, right? Are they going to play like 11-win teams, or are they both going to start 0-2? And Seattle and LA going to beat them both.
Jason says on YouTube, sucks about Mostert, probably done with the Niners. Guy can't stay healthy. Yeah, that went from 8 weeks to the full season real quick.
Told you. I wasn't expecting him to tweet out he's getting surgery, but I just said, I've seen this before. I will be, any carry he got from this point on, I will be shocked. Now I expected him to,
give him 3 games somehow.
Yeah, or just like make a comeback, 2 carries, then he gets hurt again. But I'm also, and I imagine a lot of people listening to this could not have been shocked when they heard the news. Like, it's over.
Yeah. No.
But I'm with the comment. I don't think he's ever on the Niners again. Because you can't
go back to that well again.
You can't let these people tease you. I think I was in the
one
car
thing with Jalen Hurd, you're not relying on him.
But I heard in the car today, Peter King was on with Russo, and Russo asked him about the Niners. And Peter brought up, he's like, Kyle just loves this guy, Jalen Hurd, and he's still got him on the team. It's like, I do think Kyle has this weird, like, soft spot for guys that he, like, envisions, but once he sees you, then he turns on you. But if he envisions, like, there's a level of hope there, he can hold on. Now, Mostert now is kind of, I don't want to say screwed, he got hurt, but let them down. I mean, I guess they doubled down in the draft this year as a contingency plan.
Which they probably always will, I'm guessing, moving forward. I mean, they have already. All right, John, before we go any further, let's tell the people about DraftKings. Right now, sign up with the promo code HAM at DraftKings. Another big game going. I can check it here as we're talking. At last check, there were 79 of the 200 spots still remaining. You sign up with the code HAM at DraftKings. Get in the Haberman and Milkoff DraftKings League. However you're consuming this podcast, there is a link in the description that takes you right to our league, and then you get in our game.
Yep. Get within the salary cap. You get 50. Promo code HAM.
Download the app now. Code HAM. Free shot, millions of dollars in total prizes. Minimum $5 deposit required. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for details. Podcast also brought to you by WineAccess.com/ham. WineAccess.com/ham, John. An unheard of deal going on right now at WineAccess.com/ham. They sent us each, again, several new bottles. The Phoenix Cabernet Sauvignon, Napa Valley. The bottle I popped already was the Two Angels Petite Syrah, which because you get a card that comes with each one, and this one was like goes well with steak. I'm like, steak and potatoes on the grill, Two Angels Petite Syrah, that's the one. And I think that one it's a $45 bottle, so it's a great bottle. $45. 45 is too much. You can go cheaper. 45 nothing to you? You can go bigger.
But guy, here's the thing. With our deal right now, $50 off a purchase of $150 or more. We've given a lot of deals over the years, different products. I don't know if we've ever given a 33% deal. How do you beat that? 33%.
Not for
that
a product.
is fantastic.
That's good.
So whether you're looking for a $20 bottle or a $200 bottle, Wine Access has something for you. Their selection is curated by globally recognized wine experts. 1 in 18 bottles make the cut. It's like the NFL. Like, just because you make training camp doesn't mean you're making the 53. Make the 53, it's a big deal. To make it on wineaccess.com, it's a big deal, especially /ham, because we're giving you sweet deals. $50 off a purchase of $150 or more. How do you beat that? I don't think you do.
Again, I would do it right now. I'd go to wineaccess.com/ham right now. I would type in the Two Angels Petite Syrah. I'd add that one to the cart. Here's the little tip from the pros, John. Tip from the pros, drive the green. Here's how you drive the green. You get 6 bottles. You don't pay for shipping. So get 6 bottles, have it add up to $150. You get $50 off. You're not going to pay for shipping. It's going to be as good of a deal as you can get. Wineaccess.com/ham. Another, I have not opened this one yet. One they sent was the Phoenix Cabernet. I mentioned that one.
Yeah.
100 point Napa Estate bottle of wine. So the best of Napa. Okay. The kind of wine you've got a special occasion. This is what you want. So there's a couple recommendations because there's so much good stuff that you go. Which direction do I go? There's 2 recommendations right there.
How do you beat that? $50 off a purchase of $150 right now. Wineaccess.com/ham. Wineaccess.com/ham.
Bum 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 bum. Monday Night Football, John, was as good as it gets. It was awesome. It was awesome. And the Raiders won in OT, and Derek Carr made multiple great plays. What did you come out of Monday Night Football thinking about Derek Carr?
Well, he's played really well, especially even last year, and we've talked a lot about it. In the Sando article, he would have got a first-round pick if they were going to trade him, but obviously they weren't going to trade him. Who was going to be their quarterback? I do believe, I think it's fair, and Raider fans are torn on this one, is he's a polarizing player, right? Because I think a lot of times when his stats are good, people say the eye test doesn't always match up, and sometimes he makes good plays, and then his stats don't match up as good plays. He's just someone that's often argued about. I think last night was pretty elite quarterback play, especially in big spots. Like, he made some throws. Obviously, anytime you throw a game-winning deep bomb touchdown, it's pretty cool. But I would say those 2 throws before overtime was just like, how many quarterbacks in the NFL could do that?
The balls over the throws over the middle of Bryan Edwards.
Yeah, but also scrambling around, keeping plays alive. He's just what we witnessed last night. Like, that's top 10 quarterback. Well, now I don't know if he'd be a top 10 quarterback all year, but like I saw Gruden said after the game, like he helped win us the game, right? Because part of it, he's running for his life. Leatherwood's holding on for dear life, trying to block Justin Houston. Which again, I'm not going to be negative on. It's a first time start right tackle against Justin Houston, who I thought was like 50, and then I googled him. He's 32. It's like I feel like he's been in the league for 20 years, but yeah, it's tough. But I thought Derek was really pretty brilliant when it mattered the most last night.
He for 34 of 56 for 435, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. He felt better. Now the 435 felt right, but even 34, 56, he felt better than that to me. I'm still waiting very impatiently for the all 22 of that last of the game-winning touchdown throw. I can't wait to watch that one, John, from the end zone view, and then also the end zone view I can't wait to see. I remember who's been saying repeatedly, Bryan Edwards has got something. It's your boy right here. Ever since last year, and you agreed with me. Bryan Edwards, I thought they had something in him. He had to stay healthy. But just the bright lights, the Monday Night Football, the Ravens, and it's not the first time Derek has risen to the moment.
They were kind of getting their ass kicked. They're down 14-0. He didn't wilt.
No.
And really his 1 pick, maybe a little overthrow to Willie Snead, who I don't think had played much before that play.
But it was too hard.
It did go off his hands, hit a guy in the helmet. It wasn't like a ball that was picked off, just a bad throw. But like he thoroughly outplayed Lamar, and Lamar wasn't bad. But I mean, Derek was on a completely different level. I mean, it was just But you do that, but it gets back to big picture. Like, he keeps doing this. One, the Raiders don't have a quarterback problem. Like, the Raiders are in this position now. If they're not going to make the playoffs, or they're not going to be, have a 10+ win season, like, he's going to be pretty good. Like, it's on the defense to maintain. It's on the coaching staff to do a good job. Like, their quarterback, what would the Washington football team do for that? I mean, what would they do for that right now? Yeah. What would, like, Sean Payton, maybe we'll see how Jameis ages, but, like, just have that, right? I mean, if I told you that Sean Payton had that, you'd be like, Saints are a wild card team, right? How are they going to miss the playoffs?
Yeah. I mean, Derek was one of the, I don't know, 7 best quarterbacks of week 1? Brady, Mahomes,
Kyler,
obviously.
Russell threw 4 touchdowns.
Russell for sure. Herbert?
No, Herbert wasn't. No. Yeah, Baker? I mean, he's right up there. He was better than Baker, I think.
Baker did throw.
He is better than Baker. He's better. He's a better player.
I agree. I think Baker. Like, I've come around a little bit on Baker, but still, Baker's short hopping throws that he steps into.
They have a good problem on their hands, but it's like he keeps doing this. I'm talking the Raiders.
Oh.
It becomes a more and more expensive just situation, right? Like, that type
you would
quarterback.
Think, this guy said he's never going to play for anybody else. So, right? He said he's never going to play for anybody else. But you're right. I mean, it costs $40 million a year. It costs a lot of money.
Am I freezing?
Oh, yeah, you did. But that's okay. This stuff will get edited out of the podcast, hopefully, if I can remember to do that. I mean, if our intern can remember to do that. Yeah, here's the thing I would say about it being a good problem is, like, if you end up paying him a lot of money, you do know he can go toe-to-toe in big games. Like, we haven't seen it yet, but I do think he's good enough to win big games, road games in the playoffs. I haven't seen it yet, but his skill set, we've seen him play in big games and carry a team, an offense. That's where I do think you'd feel okay about it. It's like, it's going to be really expensive, but what are your options really for trying to find another quarterback?
No, I'm not saying it's a good problem to have. Like, he's just playing himself into, a lifetime Raider quarterback. Like,
yeah, I'm just saying, I think he can earn the money you might have to end up paying him.
Yeah, but there is part of it, like the version you're getting right now, while he's not on a rookie contract, it could be a $20 million difference. Now, the salary cap goes up or whatever. He is for a non-rookie quarterback, he might be the best deal in the league, right? For a non-rookie contract quarterback. Like Roger or Stafford, like all these guys are making like $35 to $40 million.
Right.
Derek's not even close. Jimmy Garoppolo makes more than Derek. Like, Derek Carr's a much better player. And we had gone with Jimmy in 19 because Jimmy was a better player in 2019 than Derek. And maybe Derek, if he would have been with Kyle, would have looked like Jimmy and got better. But Derek's gotten better. I will give Derek a lot of credit on this one. He has kept improving.
He has.
I think he's gotten better in the pocket. He's more comfortable now, I think, running and scrambling and throwing. He's clearly just on the same page. Like, he improves. And and we know, and people know he's he's a hard worker. But it's like he's tangibly improved. Like, he feels better when you watch him.
Troy says he hit 20 of his last 23 throws.
Yeah, he was. I think in the second half there was a stat where he was like 12 of 12 for a straight. He was just like, fuck.
Arthur says, do you think not playing in the preseason played a part in their slow start last night?
I don't even know what to make of, like, people were like, do you think that Rodgers being with Teller in Maui drinking Mai Tais is the reason they got their ass kicked? Well, everyone was just circle jerking each other 2 weeks ago. And now, it's like, I don't know. It's hard to,
yeah,
I could have a take that it did, but I don't
week ones are weird. I do wonder for them.
Ravens are good.
Ravens are good for them specifically. I mean, for everybody, playing their first home game was a big deal, but for the Raiders specifically, playing their first home game was really a big deal.
With fans
wanting to play well, I don't know. But the bottom line was they but they won. And the other part of this now is they're in Las Vegas. And I remember you and I have talked about this for a few years now. I was there. I was in Vegas during the Las Vegas Knights opening season.
Yeah.
When they went to the Stanley Cup Finals, I was there during the Stanley Cup Finals. Knights flags everywhere. I don't follow hockey. I couldn't tell you if the Knights are good again or what their attendance has been like.
No, they were good last year.
Okay.
I think they were in the playoffs.
I would imagine their attendance was good.
Yeah, it was.
One key for
Cobble was there. Remember?
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. They're gonna have they're going to be people there, right? Vegas is a destination. The question is, will you get all Raider fans, or will you get like some people traveling in, and will it not be a great home field? If they're winning games, they're going to get, especially if they're winning games, they're going to get a ton of locals early. Like if they start hot, and Monday night helped that. It just makes it a hotter ticket for people who live in the area who maybe weren't a Raider fan before, or they're kind of a Raider fan. You make yourself cool. You make yourself in demand. You do help potentially build a real home field advantage there. It looked awesome. It looked awesome on Monday night.
Yeah, it looked sweet. It looked really cool. I mean, the one knock, and I understand, like you don't even know, and it wouldn't have happened at the Coliseum. Not that the Coliseum's long gone and it should be. Derek did have to quiet the crowd several times when they were on offense in big spots in the second half.
Because when I tweeted that video in the preseason, people told me I was just doing like a
no, it was happening. It was happening nonstop in the second half.
Because when I did it in the preseason, everyone was like, "Why? What's with your agenda?" And I was like,
No.
I'm just
there's no agenda.
Peterman's got to quiet people down in the red zone. Okay.
It's pretty clear why it happens. If you or me were just John Middlecoff, Guy Haberman, we lived in Henderson, Nevada, and we were had a young family, we had buddies, and we were insurance people or whatever, and we were diehard NFL people, and we're like, we got fucking season tickets. We've lived in Vegas our whole life. We've never gone to, maybe we've been to an NFL game or whatever, but it was always kind of neutral. We're not necessarily Raider fans, but now we're Raider fans because they represent Vegas and we're Vegas people. Like Vegas people live there, right? It's not just the casinos. And you're just going nuts. I don't even blame the people for screaming. Like you're just kind of living in the moment. It's a sweet event. I can imagine there were a lot of people, like Oakland or LA people that traveled there, just people from Vegas that wore black shirts, that were taking it all in. That were like, this is the NFL. This is badass. And the game, because the game was sweet. You got fucking Lamar Jackson running around like it's, Nebraska 1996. I mean, you're like, this is sweet. You got Waller doing it. If you were in attendance as just a neutral NFL fan, but you adopt the Raiders as any human would if they lived in a city that just gets a pro team, I think you wouldn't be like thinking like, I got to be quiet right now because they're on offense. I'd be like, fuck yeah. I think
this is what I came for.
I think that's what was happening.
Yeah.
Which is cool. Like I mean, there's no listen. They made the best financial decision ever for the franchise because everyone is running from that area in Oakland, right? Joe couldn't have got out of there fast enough. Mark Davis wanted out, and the A's are soon to probably be in Vegas as well. So, and that it never would have looked like that there. If that thing cost $2 billion in Vegas, what would that same exact place? If somehow the Raiders got to own that whole place and build that there, what's it, $5 billion in California?
I mean, Stan. Well, I guess Stan's probably a bad example because Stan, they had
he built other stuff, yeah,
and also they had rain. Remember, like the construction got delayed because there was like a bunch of rain.
Yeah, that's true.
But
I think he was 6.
6, yeah, it kept going up. But just the whole thing. Now, I'm partial to a grass field. They got a grass field in there. That's the other cool thing for being a dome. I love a grass field. But
Mark made promises, ingress, egress. He couldn't live up to just because that's where the tailgating doesn't really exist. But I don't blame it's out of his control.
Here's what we know:
he was big on the grass field, and I give him credit on doing the grass
because
field.
they roll that UNLV rolls in a turf field. They roll that Raiders field out.
I would rather play on the grass.
Yeah, but you got to pay to maintain. The grass can't have a game on it like on a Saturday and a Sunday.
Good point. Yeah.
So
they clearly didn't get the Jeds Levi's guy. Remember that disaster early on?
Do I remember that disaster? Yeah, I actually give Jed credit for not pivoting to turf artificial.
Yeah, he could have pretty quickly.
But look, one thing you can't deny: Vegas knows how to put on a show, and what you want, unlike USC that had like all the lights and the smoke. Here we go, USC Stanford, and then everyone's gone by halftime. you're not coming back for the show again. The show's sweet if you get the show, you get the lights, you get the flash, the Vegas Knights opening thing, and then the game delivers, and you're like, the one thing that makes me feel more like a fan than anything else, and you and I have been to a bunch of games where we just wear a pass, you go sit in the booth, you get some free food, you get a parking pass, and you can get detached from what a fan experience is, where parking costs $25 and you got to go buy beers and there's a line for $50. My dad and my sister just went to Dodger Stadium. I think parking was $30, they said.
I heard Giants was like 80.
Yeah. But you can get detached. The thing, and so you and I have both over the years made a conscious effort to know we're not going to sit in the press box. We're going to go sit in the stands. We're just going to go as fans and just walk around the stadium. The one thing that makes me feel more like a fan than anything else is starting lineups. If I'm going to a game, I've got to be there. I've got to be there. Basketball starting lineups, baseball starting lineups. Historically, football starting lineups are not the same as basketball or baseball starting lineups. But the one thing that makes me feel most like a fan is starting lineups. I just love it. I love it. Maybe it goes back to the Bulls. I don't know. But I love starting lineups. And that thing, they got Bruce Buffer, and they got Steve Aoki. And the place was just, they got the flame, which is the biggest flame you've ever seen in your life. And it was sick. It was just a sweet show.
Yeah, you said at the beginning of the podcast, right? In 2 weeks, they're playing the Dolphins in Vegas. Like that's their next home game.
Yeah.
That game, if you were going to start, I would say they get a free pass last year for the fans, not from the way the team got evaluated, but from the fans going. Everyone forgot about your team sucking. That game was so much fun yesterday. I bet that Miami game is pretty sweet, right? Just the buzz in town, people going to work, people texting their friends. Everyone that went to that game who lives in Vegas couldn't stop talking about it today, right? If you've lived in Vegas, especially a long time, as people that grew up, very close to Sacramento, yet, just because obviously you just naturally, if you grew up in Davis, the teams were not the Warriors, it was the Kings, but it was also the Giants and the Niners. So everyone was the Giants and Niners, or maybe the A's, but you knew what the big boys looked like. But you also had this small town, like the Kings were treated like all them combined. It was that franchise was a really big deal. And in towns that have not had it, when you have a remarkable moment, it galvanizes the whole place. That's why it's such a high level in San Francisco when the Niners are good, because they have the entire Northern California. I can't, the Bears in Chicago, or the Eagles in Philly, or the Giants in New York. It's the small town Tuscaloosa times 50. Right? Just because of the size of the people. But that Vegas, that was a powerful moment that's the way to start. Yeah. You need a little luck from the football gods, and he kind of got it.
Yeah. Yeah.
They got lucky. They easily could have shit the bed on that one.
Everybody who wins a bunch of football games has some wins where they should have.
But that was as ape shit crazy as I've ever seen with the Raiders.
You could argue that they got unlucky on the interception on the end zone and the Lamar fumble. They got
I know. I'm just saying the whole way it played out. That was insanity.
But that's part of what jumpstarts the whole thing and has everybody talking about it.
Is there anything crazier in football than a huge score that potentially is going to end the game? They review it, turns out his knee's down. Then you're like, oh my God, if something goes wrong here, we could have just won. Then all of a sudden it does go wrong, like fumbled snap. Then all of a sudden you're at the 4.
Did that cross your mind? Something could go wrong here? Because it didn't cross my mind. I'm like, nothing's going to go wrong here. They're on the half-yard line.
I did just because I didn't think an interception would happen. I just thought it could get a little weird.
Once you get the false start on the half-yard line,
then you had to be thinking something could go weird, right?
Yeah, then it got weird.
I didn't expect a pick, but the pick when it hits the
it's better than a regular pick too, because the ball's just.
But did they on the Manning? I guess the Manning broadcast just showed the ABC broadcast when Gruden hit the ground. All of his papers went everywhere, and he just fell to the ground. That was an incredible camera shot of just his papers. He had 4 papers over here. He had another paper here, and a pen was over here, and his body was curved, just laying there. It was incredible.
Oh, it was so good. Great TV. They're going to be entertaining. I do think they're good. This is where I think they might just be good enough on defense to be pretty entertaining. They got
that division's got a lot of talent. I don't think it's as good as the NFC West, but it's going to be hard.
But like is Justin Herbert on the road there with fans going to be the same as Justin Herbert was in? I still like him a lot. Don't get me
I'd say
wrong.
one thing the Raiders have going for them a little bit is the big bad wolf in the AFC by a mile. And part of it is when you're in a division, you become numb to it a little bit. You're like, oh yeah, the Niners did with Seattle. Like Seattle's really good, but you're just like, we're playing Seattle. It's part of the deal. They just play the Chiefs. Like how many times has Derek played the Chiefs now? He's been in the league, 8 years, 16 times.
Yeah.
Maybe he missed one game for injury, but like they play, and he's had a lot of success. He's beat them, at several iterations of their. I do think that's a benefit is like they don't look at the Chiefs. Obviously, it's a big deal to beat them, and they did last year. But I'm just saying, like, they just go into it like they're used to playing that team. Like when Cleveland did, it kind of felt like this is like the kind of Stefanski's early Super Bowl. It felt like that watching them. Like when you're the Raiders, I don't think that you just look at it differently when they're.
Yeah, the Raiders have played the Chiefs as a heavy underdog. They've played the Chiefs as like a team that people are expecting something out of, and let's see what they do against the Chiefs. Right? They've played them in a number of different scenarios that I think has them pretty ready. I think Derek's just really ready to take the next step. The question is white Khalil Mack and that defense like
white chocolate?
White chocolate.
That was a good jersey. I give him credit on that one. He looked good. I mean, he looked
Jason
good.
Williams, he did. He looked great.
All
right.
I talked to someone, pretty prominent human last night, and his theory why Gruden benched or inactivated or had Cleveland Farrell was a little bit like he did with Reggie McKenzie's players. It was to show Mark Davis like this guy's drafting this guy like to make Mike Mayock look bad. I was like, that's not a terrible theory, just because it's kind of been out there. Those two guys have been at odds, but like maybe
John's
just not as
good.
good.
What does he have to prove to anybody?
But John's weird with that stuff. He did it with Reggie and those guys. I thought it was possible.
Cleveland ended up on the injury. Cleveland has a back injury all of a sudden now.
Oh, so maybe it's not. So it wasn't a true healthy scratch.
Well, I mean, they could be making up. Who knows? Once you start doing conspiracy theories, if you're willing to do conspiracy theory on the healthy scratch, then you can do a conspiracy theory on why did he finally suddenly pop up.
But like Mike, a couple weeks ago said like, this is what I signed up for. If we don't win fast, I'll get fired. So he was already kind of talking like that.
Yeah.
Gruden's weird, with that type of stuff.
Yeah. I don't know. Before we go any further, John, let's tell the people about Upstart. Upstart.com/ham. That's upstart.com/ham. Link is in the description. Go ahead and give it a click and check out how to lower monthly payments that you have today at upstart.com/ham.
We've all had debt. We've all been there. Trust us. We started from scratch this podcast.
Scratch with no scratch, John.
It's scratch with no scratch. And you just start racking up your credit card bills, trying to survive. We've all been there, and we can help you. So whether it's paying off credit card debts, consolidating high interest debt, funding personal expenses, hell, maybe you want a new bathroom. That's where Upstart comes in. Upstart knows you're more than just your credit score. It's expanding access for affordable credit with 5-minute online rate check. You can see your rate up front for loans between, think about this, $1,000 to $50,000. $50,000. You need some ched? That's where Upstart comes in. They can give you some ched, and you can check your rate.
So many Americans experienced financial hardship in the last year. Upstart can help you regain your footing, get things back on track. Find out how Upstart can lower your monthly payments today at upstart.com/ham. Loan amounts will be determined based on your credit, income, and certain other information provided in your loan application. Go to upstart.com/ham. That's upstart.com/ham. Podcast also brought to you by RexMD. RexMD.com/ham. That's RexMD.com/ham. RexMD.com/ham. Right now, I think I might have the wrong read. RexMD.com. Sample packets of VD medications are available to listeners of the Ham Pod. Do I have the right read?
Yes, you do. Because
here's how it works.
Yep.
Oh, here's how you fill out a quick medical questionnaire on the website. Doctor reviews your situation, provides you the ED, that's erectile dysfunction, not afraid to say it, medication that you need if it's appropriate. Then medication shipped right to you for free with 2-day shipping.
We're all men. We all have different issues, and we embrace them. RexMD has helped over 100,000 men get generic Viagra. That's the thing, generic Viagra. They sent me some. They sent Haberman some. I haven't asked him. He hasn't asked me. It's just we're men. Maybe we used them, maybe we didn't. I don't know. If you're looking for generic Viagra, RexMD has made the process fast, easy, and affordable. So you don't have to wait another minute. RexMD is now offering starter packs to generic Viagra for new customers. Visit rexmd.com/ham right now to get started. That's Rex, REXMD.com/ham.
RexMD.com/ham. Oh, you mentioned the Ryder Cup earlier. Would you say Steph?
Well, NBC announced, you know how like the match, was it the Jordan, Tiger, Phil, Brady match? Was Michael Jordan? Oh, it was Peyton, not Michael Jordan. And like Justin Thomas was like the commentator for the match.
Yeah.
Like on, I don't know if he's doing exactly that, but I would imagine NBC announced that Steph Curry is going to be like an analyst. So if I was them, I'd put him on the grounds, right? Like he would be following a group or whatever. That's what I would guess. Not that he's like in the booth, like next to Azinger.
Yeah.
So Steph is Steph's part of the broadcast, which I think is pretty fucking genius. This is where, as a lover of the sport, I do think there is a lot of room for growth, because I was listening to Trent Dilfer today with Russillo.
Yeah.
And he was using the golf analogy on Wentz, where he's like, one thing Carson needs to figure out is like when you're in the trees, you can't always try to hit it out through the trees onto the green. Sometimes you just got to take your medicine, chip out, and just take your bogey. He's like, when I started in the league, every Pro Bowl quarterback, they all played golf. And we always had that in common. He's like, I actually think that helps with their football, which might be a little bit of a stretch, because I don't think you think like when Chandler Jones is chasing you, like, think of the time I was behind the tree at Olympic Club and I chipped out and I still made a long par. Like, I don't think you're thinking like that. But his point was like, this guy needs a hobby just to like, you can't always be thinking big play or bust. But I just think a lot of famous people play golf, and golf broadcasts, depending on the season, should really utilize these human beings. Like if during the football off season, like, hey, you got the Players Championship, like, hey, Patrick Mahomes, give him a mic, like let him go for an hour on the broad. Like these guys will do it.
Part of what makes it cool is that Patrick Mahomes, as great of an athlete as he is in awe of these golfers, right? Steph Curry, as great of an athlete as he is, like the rest of us, goes, I can't believe he just hit that shot. But it's one thing for you and I to go, I can't believe he just hit that shot. For Steph Curry, who hits shots that no one else can hit when it comes to basketball, and is a fantastic golfer.
He's good.
To have the perspective on, because especially golf, a small percentage of the time you spend playing is executing shots. So much of it is just about competing, right? You're in this long competition. Steph understands competition, right? Steph understands pressure. Steph understands expectations. Steph understands pre-shot routine. Steph understands all of that stuff. Being an underdog, being a favorite, which, by the way, I don't know if you saw it through the MyBookie odds up. Europe plus 185, USA minus 200.
I'm pretty sure they've won like the last 4 Ryder Cups.
And then Brooksy came out and was like, yeah, we're all terrible teammates. Like, yeah, well, I can tell.
When you're saying, it's an individual sport. I go out there, I'm supposed to root the guys on. It's like, he hit the shitty shot. It wasn't my fault.
Why am I supposed to feel bad? I did my job.
It's like, the more I thought about that, because when you text me the thing this morning, and I had seen it before, my take was like, I'm 100% with Brooks. The more I thought about it, it's like, I saw a lot of people ripping him. Like, Brooks, you can't just root for a guy. Like, it's not that hard. Like, just, hey, man, good luck, Bryson. Hit it fucking close. We're on the same team. It's really not that complicated.
No, you said to me when I texted it to you, and you're right. It's these guys spend their whole lives playing an individual sport, and now for 4 days they're supposed to play a team sport. When like they
are the team, right? Like Brooks Koepka is the Steelers or whatever.
How about like part of the job? Be a leader.
But it's not his job. But it's not his thing.
Well, it's not anybody's job. No one needs it. I just know this. When I watch the Ryder Cup, Europe seems to be a better team than the USA. Now, does that win you golf events? I don't know. You're right. You're each hitting individual shots. But part of it might help if you're not standing over somebody else's shot going, I can't believe this asshole put me over here in the sand. Or I can't believe I'm hitting this asshole's Callaway when I play Bridgestones.
The No Laying Up, their pod, the golf pod, did like a Ryder Cup preview. And they had 2 takes on Brooks. And one was like, he just hurt his wrist. And he's notoriously like on tour, loves his money. I mean, most humans love his money, but love money. But like, that's his thing. Like he loves like winning big cash. Well, the FedEx, he tapped out of the FedEx. So their take was like, for a guy that loves money, he clearly was injured.
Right.
Because like the difference in that, if you could just get to like 18th, is the difference of like $500,000, right? So he's hurt. Well, they're like, no chance he's going to give up his spot on this team. but he could easily like one day in like, oh yeah, it's still hurting. I'm just out and just chalk it up like this is sports. Like where the good teammate would be like, I can't go. Right. I'll come support, but you got to fill my spot with someone who can pull. Like I'm injured right now, but their take, and I think it's right. Like no chance he's given up because he's kind of selfish. He's given up his spot, but it's very conceivable. They roll him out the first day against like Rory. He's like, oh, I'm fucking injured. I'm out. And it's like, well, we knew this. You should have come forward. And the other thing would be he's has come out because they asked him, like, can you get along with Bryce? And he said all the right things. Like, I can, at least for this week. Can you imagine, like, it would be pretty easy for him to root on Bryson? Like, they're going to be on the same team, but there's no chance he's going to do that. Absolutely zero. Where it's like, now he qualified. So did Bryson. Like, they were automatic qualifiers for the team. They didn't have to pick them. I just, now Bryson's probably a dick too. I mean, these other guys don't like him. So it's a complicated situation. But some of these guys, but this gets back to the individual sport. We talk about, team athletes when they make things difficult. You and I have been in a position where we made things a little difficult. Like it's human nature sometimes when you feel slighted. And then sometimes you look back, you go, I could have handled that a little different or whatever. It does get back to the individual thing though. I think it's hard to snap out of that mind of just like, it's all about me. Cause that is true nature of the sport that they play.
Sure. And part of it is very much about individual preparation. That was one of the things he says. I'm used to doing my own thing and you're doing your own thing. And now we've got like a team meeting before the event, So
you think about that sometimes? Like sometimes when I get mad at like a curveball in my life, like, oh, I got to do this. And it's like, you got to be better at just handling curveballs.
Yeah.
But then I think
the key is you have to remember like, oh, no, wait, this is actually the thing I'm supposed to get better at.
Yeah.
This is the thing. This is like a chance for me to improve myself. Right.
I don't think Brooks is thinking about that. I don't think he cares. You could argue he's not. I wouldn't want him on the team. I've kind of come to that conclusion.
Killer Demo says UCLA versus the Dogs this weekend. What you prediction, guys?
Plus 11.5.
Yeah. So I think Fresno State's good.
Jake Haener, top 10 pick? No, I'm kidding.
Jake Haener is good. Jake Haener better, I think, than 9 of the quarterbacks. I think he'd start for 9 of the quarterbacks in the Pac-12 right now. He should be Washington's starter right now.
Like, do you think there's a chance Jake Haener is like a 4 or 5 NFL career as like a backup, bouncing around a little bit?
Jake Haener's mom, news anchor in the Bay Area, by the way, on local TV.
Oh,
Julie, I think.
Oh, I think I followed her on Instagram for a long. Oh, it all makes sense now. Okay, big fan.
Yeah. So I like UCLA.
Okay,
I was like coming off a bye. I do think Fresno State's legitimately good, though. I know you do too. I wonder, what's your take on this? So they play Oregon really close. The next week, Oregon goes and beats Ohio State. Fresno State blows out Cal Poly. Is Fresno State going to be a little bit of a public team, or UCLA looked great against LSU? So, like what would this line be if Fresno State had been
lost by 20?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it'd be bigger. I just wonder, is the fact that they look good in like a big time game, and that
how would it not?
And I guess part of that is like I don't think Fresno State played the same Oregon team that Ohio State played.
I think if you just asked who are the best teams right now in the country to a random college football fan, they'd be like Alabama, Georgia, Oregon, right? So if you were obviously Oregon's only played 2 games. If you were one of the teams that went toe to toe with Oregon, you're like, oh, they got to be good. Like if I went toe to toe with Bama or Georgia,
right,
you'd be like, fuck, they're pretty good.
Yep.
And but I do think sometimes that holds weight, right? You've seen over the years a team. Now there's a balance to it. You know better than me. Do you truly believe that Oregon just overlooked them, or they held things back?
No, I don't think they overlooked. Well, I mean, they might have overlooked them a little bit. Oregon has not been a great. I think one of the challenges for Oregon is going to be: do they play down to any competition, or do they continue what they did against Ohio State against everybody? That's a question with them. I do think they absolutely held things back.
But if Fresno goes 10-2, maybe just go, hey, they're one of the better non-Power 5 teams, and that was just they came to play, and they're hard out.
I think they absolutely held things back, Oregon. I also think Jake Haener and Jalen Cropper and they got good receivers. I think Fresno State's a really good football team. Kalen DeBoer, I think they're well coached. They got 99 per hour. They got some, you mentioned it, some physical, just some guys on defense that look like football players. But UCLA's coming off a bye.
You could easily fill in for Todd McShay. You got some knowledge here of the Dogs.
I called a Fresno State game last year. So I watched them all year.
So they got a lot of guys returning on teams.
Yeah, Ronnie Rivers, who's their all-time leading rusher now.
So clearly they've been good for a while, right? Tedford put together a good team, and they got all these guys back, and they have, I don't know how high he's going to get drafted, or like a guy that's a legitimate college quarterback who probably has an NFL future. I don't know how long a future is, but he's going to get a look. So they're good.
Yeah.
Like Boise State plays someone good. Like
Boise plays Oklahoma State at home.
Yeah. They're favored -4.
I know. Oklahoma State's going to be like, what did we just walk into? How did we get here, and what does this feel?
I just do not understand for the life of me. And I understand the mindset a couple years ago. To me, when the 12-team playoff, in what world UCLA playing Fresno State, Oklahoma State playing Boise, I'm not doing that anymore. Like they're like what I again previously completely get it, and even right now with the 4-team playoff, you got to fill your schedule with someone. UCLA has really not much to gain this week, right? Like if they win 20-13, no one will really care. In a couple weeks, they won the game. But if they were to lose, like some shootout, let's say they lost in overtime, like 38-34, who knows, whatever the score is, but it's a high scoring back and forth. Fresno's just like, damn, they're good. It's clear by the first half, tied at half. It would feel like a terrible loss, even though it might not be that bad of a loss, right? Fresno State might be better than half the Pac-12 this year, right? If they did like home and home things, like I think they could beat Oregon State, they could beat Washington State, they could beat Arizona. They could probably go toe to toe with Arizona State. Depending on what the game was.
Cal lost to Nevada.
They could beat Cal.
Fresno State are on par.
Yeah, they could beat.
But I'm also a believer that if you play a full conference, like part of what makes Power 5 conference hard is playing those games every week.
I'm talking the ebb and flow. Like you get a home game, they get a home game. That type deal. You don't play them all on the road. And part of it, like for those teams when they go on the road, right? It's easy to approach it like this. Like you don't get to just approach league games like every game's a Super Bowl. You can't do that. But like when you're one of these, for Boise State, this game against Oklahoma State, now it's at home because somehow that's insane. Oklahoma State did a home and home Boise State. That's pretty crazy.
I know.
That's insane. That's an incredible game if you're just living Boise, which I think is like one of the fastest.
It has been for several years now. Yeah.
Fastest growing cities in America.
Yeah, like top 10 city, blah, blah, blah. Like
I'm pretty sure like the last 2 years, they have the highest real estate jump.
Oh, really?
It's like true double.
I remember
went from
several
like 500,000 is now worth 1 million. Like it's truly 1 million went to 2. Like everything legitimately doubled.
It's a good place it's a fun place. I've hung out in
fantastic town.
Marquise Carr on YouTube, John, who I think is one of the Carr brothers, says it's 2 R's, Marquise Carr. It's funny, y'all, maybe one of the Lost Carr brothers. It's funny, y'all probably show more love for the Niners, but you have to admit, if the Raiders go 2-0 versus them, the Raiders will be way more impressive. I guess I think that was a response to their schedule. The Raiders 2-0 would be more impressive. Absolutely. Most people's 2-0 would be more impressive than the Niners 2-0.
Who's arguing that?
But the Raiders 2-0 would be more impressive than most other people's 2-0.
If the Raiders go to Pittsburgh and win this week, unless the Ravens beat the Chiefs, it'll be one of the best wins of the week. I don't think I'm thinking possible wins. Like how could there be, they go and beat Pittsburgh on the road? And that'd be probably a top 5 win this week. Tennessee goes to Seattle. Like the Rams going to India.
Jags just winning.
Yeah.
Jets beating the Pats.
That'd be huge. Of just real. Let's preface it by
take out the Lions-Packers game.
Yeah, let's just preface it by like teams that could win 8+ games. Like that would be a very, very impressive win. Like if Tennessee bounces back this week and goes to Seattle and win, that'd be an incredible win, right? After just getting your ass kicked.
Right.
If the Raiders go to Pittsburgh after this crazy, like to me, 1-1 in that stretch is all you wanted. If I would have told you before the season, like just go 1-1, like the Niners, it was 2-0 or we got DEFCON 4 already, right? The Niners have they got to win.
Yes.
The Raiders do not now, with that win last night, have to win this game. And if they do, then you just be like, power rankings, are they a top 10 power ranking team? They would be immediately.
Yeah, they would. Yeah. Now, Troy says Big Ben's never beat the Raiders. Was he not the quarterback when Antonio Brown had 17 or 18 receptions?
Yeah, he was. He did beat the Raiders. I watched it. So did you. He had the greatest statistical game for any wide receiver that didn't score a touchdown. It's like 17, 320, and they won. Ben was 100%. No, I think Mason came in. Did Ben get knocked out and Mason threw that pass? But I'm pretty sure Ben played the majority of that game. Like, do you give him the win? Like, is like a Major League Baseball starter?
Depends when it happens. Depends when it happens. Let me see if but the Steelers offense, 597 yards of off. Oh, did you say Landry Jones?
Okay. It was before Mason. Mason was still in college.
But when did Landry come into that game?
Did Landry play the whole thing? Doesn't feel like it, if I remember correctly. This would have been Del Rio's first year. Did you tweet the picture of Del Rio in the Washington outfit that kind of looked like SC? Was that just legitimately his coaching outfit? Like that was.
I was like looking for a good Del Rio photo, and that one came up without a football team logo on it. I'm like, oh my god, it's perfect.
You think 100% he will try to get that job, right?
Yes,
he did last
to get
time.
It before. Yeah.
I would. What would you say if I said, "Hey, Schefter just broke. Del Rio will become the." Freeze on you.
So I don't think he would win. I'd be surprised if he won a national championship there, but I do think he would give them the first thing that they really need. USC is he would give them the first thing they really need, which is an identity. You know, I think Del Rio would. I'm not opposed to. He'd give them an identity. I'm not opposed to it. So, all right. Anything else today? Anything else?
No, that's all I got.
All right. We'll be back Thursday. Great time hanging. Don't forget, review, share. Here. Everybody's back in the mix. There's so much content out there to consume. We want you consuming our content. We appreciate that you do. And one of the things that helps, just like when you use one of our advertisers, is when you share it with somebody. You tell somebody, just like word of mouth works so much on binging TV shows. People are always like, oh, give me a show to binge. How about let's share a podcast? Let's share this podcast. That helps us out. We appreciate when you do that. And, find somebody to send it to. Check out these guys. Trust me, get past the first 5 minutes. They're actually cool. Just say that. Just something like that.
Good call.
All right, everybody. Thanks for hanging with us.
Adios.
Pelota!